Welcome to the Midlife Fulfilled podcast. Are you over 40 and ready to truly thrive? Well, on this podcast, we go deep on ways to thrive across the 5 pillars of midlife: health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy. I'm Bernie Borges, midlife advocate, life coach, and your host. Subscribe now and get ready to thrive. Jen Hardy, welcome to the Midlife Fulfilled podcast, a vulnerable conversations episode.
Thank you so much, Bernie. I am very excited to be here and talk to you today.
Thank you, Jen. I'm very excited to talk with you. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction. You are doing a lot of amazing things. You are a multifaceted content creator. You're an entrepreneur. You focus on video and podcasting. That's kind of how we met. We met in the podcasting community. You host the Jen Hardy Show on YouTube and also the Fabulous Over 50 podcast. Love that. And you're the author of, I think, 4 books, maybe 5. I don't know. We'll catch up on that. And you've been in the podcasting space almost as long as I have, since 2017. So you're just a few years behind me. I'm at 2013, but we're really close there. And, in 2024, so I forgot to say Happy New Year. Here you are, the first episode of the brand new year, 2025. And way back in 2024, as if it was that long ago, you won Podcast of the Year and you launched your Jen Hardy Show on YouTube, which had 500,000 views in its first 3 months. That is amazing. And you and your husband, Dave, have 7 children, which is also amazing. So Jen, you've got all this amazing stuff going on in your life, both professionally and personally. But I know a little bit about your background, Jen. You are not supposed to be here. You are not supposed to be here. So let's begin with that story, your journey. And you know what I'm referring to.
I do. It's interesting because, I'm definitely not supposed to be here. I fell down the stairs a couple of times back in 2012 and didn't want to do anything about it. Long story short, my husband had surgery. Go figure. And I didn't have time to take care of myself. I had 7 kids and I was running around, and my sister-in-law said, you really should go to the doctor. People don't fall down the stairs frequently. And so I did, and they did a scan, and I had lost a lot of the muscle in my back, more than normal, more than just sitting around. It was a concerning amount. And so they sent me to the doctor, and long story short, they diagnosed one of the 2 things I have quickly, which is called myasthenia gravis, and it affects your muscles. But they didn't catch the muscular dystrophy, which was what was getting rid of my muscles. And because of that, they put me on super high doses of prednisone, and to counterbalance my mood with that, because I don't handle that well, gave me some medicine to calm me down and put me in a myasthenic crisis, which is where you don't breathe and you go into the ICU. And it is not fun to be in ICU when you're conscious, let me tell you. And so I spent 6 separate weeks in 2014 in the hospital, in and out of these myasthenic crises, because the secondary medicine was making my lungs not work because it was calming my muscles down. And they didn't know that I have a secondary muscle issue. And so I had a massive surgery. And can I think of the word? A thymectomy. There's a thymus gland that could cure you of the myasthenia in up to 10 years after the surgery. So I had it done. Didn't seem to do anything. Had 20 rounds of IVIG, which is a IV therapy. It takes all day. And so it was a whole thing. And I went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and nobody could figure out the secondary component because nobody
How long
has.
of a period was this, Jen? This sounds like it was many
2012
months.
to 2017.
That's a lot of months.
And in the meantime, in 2014, when I was in and out of the hospital, I had 5 teenagers, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And my husband was in the Army, so he was gone 12 to 14 hours a day. So, and I was in bed. I was actually in a wheelchair that year. It was a lot. And finally, my doctor said, there's just nothing else we can do. So we're going to give you pain medicine, and I'm going to make you as comfortable as I can, but you have about a year to live. And then I went to my pulmonologist, my lung doctor, and she said, your lungs are about to fail. It's diaphragm that wasn't working because it's a muscle, right? She said it was working at about 20%, and you're going to need to be on a ventilator full time. We can give you one for that's a backpack. Don't worry. You can go everywhere. You can do anything. You can live with it as long as you're here. And I thought, no, no, I don't want that.
And
And
what
there
year
are
was
people,
that, Jen?
2018.
18. Okay.
2018. So yeah, then so basically I had a year to live and it was going to be wearing this thing. And I thought, no, I'm not ready. And I know that there are people that live with that. And if you are somebody living with that, I have all the respect and admiration in the world because I may end up there too at some point. But I was determined to fight it. I don't know what kicked in, Bernie. I don't know. But I thought, no, I don't want to do this. So, but if I'm going to go, I'm going to have my family settled. So my older 5 children are out, they're on their own, they're successful doing their things, but I have 2 children at home that are both autistic. And the thought of having them without a mom, it just seemed really sad. So my
Hmm.
husband and I went on vacation. We came to Florida. We found a place on an island. We could buy a house. And I thought, that is where they need to be. Then if I'm not there, they've got the beach, they've got this perfect life. And Bernie, it's what I needed
Hmm.
because here I am. And when we left, I was using a walker and a cane. And I don't use either one of those things anymore. It is, yeah, absolutely incredible. And the doctors here keep saying, "Why do you say there's something wrong with you? You're fine."
Well, apparently there is nothing wrong with you. And clearly, as I was reading your bio, which is, amazing, you've accomplished so much. And who'd have thunk just 6 or 7 years ago, which really, in the grand scheme of those of us that are over 50, in my case, over 60, 5 or 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, that's nothing, right? That's like almost last month. And look at where you are now. So you are a great inspiration to so many people, Jen. I don't know how many people know that about you because, I've listened to not every episode, but I've listened to many episodes of your podcast, and you are so upbeat. You're so calming. You're so, it's like you're a friend. Like I've gotten to know you and I want to call you a friend. But if I didn't know you at all and I just listened to your podcast, I'd feel like you're my friend. That's the demeanor that you have on an audio podcast. And then on YouTube, for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, please remember, my listener, that the Midlife Fulfill podcast is available on YouTube. You have to see Jen. She's gorgeous. She's always put together beautifully. You look like you just always look that way. You every time I see you, Jen, you are put together perfectly. Like you could step out of the microphone and walk across a stage on in a like a glamour show or something like that. And to hear your backstory and for you to almost say it sort of casually, meaning like, yeah, that was a chapter in my life and it was there in the past and here I am now. So where I want to go next in this conversation, there's so many potential places, is how has this changed your perspective on life? Like, how do you approach life having experienced that?
Oh, it completely changed how I experience everything. Well, let me start by saying I had an experience before that changed. Oh, it's going to make me cry. So, when I was 14, I have 28 aunts and uncles that I did not know growing up, but I had one great aunt that lived in the state that I lived in, and I knew her. And she was dying of cancer. And this one day I was like, I'm a kid. I don't want to go see her. I'm sick of going to see her. Da 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 da. Well, that's the day she passed. The day,
Mm.
that night she passed. And I missed seeing her. And so at that moment, I thought, I'm never going to leave anyone ever without telling them I love them and ending it right. And so that's really kind of stuck with me. And I think it's really helped me. It's saved a lot of relationships because, if another phrase I've heard is, do you want to be right or do you want to have a relationship? So those two things have really saved me with people. But when you think that you're not going to make it, you really learn to spend every moment loving life. And you have to make a conscious decision because so my podcast when I started was called The Sick Mom's Guide, and it was for moms with chronic illness because there wasn't anything except people complaining. And I didn't want, we don't need any more complaining when you don't feel well. And I wanted solutions for these women. So, when you have 7 kids and you are in bed, you need a lot of solutions. And but it could have been really depressing. And I think for a little while, you go through those 7 stages. But when I got through that, I thought, every day that I'm here is a gift. Every day I get to see my children is a gift. And I'm going to do something I enjoy every single day and set goals for the future, whether or not the future is there. Because if it is there, I can enjoy them. And that's what I've done. And it's wild how this is. And I think I did the episode on the YouTube show to tell everyone, because I keep saying all these great things. 2024 has been incredible. But it's not bragging. It's not bragging. It's saying, if I could be there and I'm not supposed to be here today and I was literally dying, and I can get podcast of the year and broadcast of the year and have this show go crazy and have YouTube partner managers at 56 and do all these things, that anybody can do it. It's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not luck. It's that it was an 8-year overnight success. That's actually the
Mm-hmm.
first chapter in my new book, because it does look like an overnight success, but it was a lot of hard work. And while I was sick, but I think if you do something positive when you're going through something like that, it helps you heal.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth on that, Jen. That was exactly where I was going in my mind. Like, you have had this motivation to do this. You have just given it your all. And I can't imagine anything but what you just said, that it's helped you to heal. But I actually do want to unpack a little bit your motivation. Like, why did you choose to do a podcast and a YouTube show? Like, what is it that motivated you, inspired you, or however you want to characterize it? Why did you do both?
So I had the podcast, and then I changed it over to Fabulous Over 50 because I went to Podfest, which I think is where we met. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
thought, I got to stop talking about being sick. It's depressing. I don't want to introduce myself as this sick person. What would be fun and what's not being dealt with a lot? And of course, right after I started mine, Julia Louis Dreyfus started her podcast, Wiser Than Me. And, the rest is history. But, but I thought, everyone kept saying, put it on YouTube, put it on YouTube. And I thought, I don't want to put my podcast on YouTube. I don't want to do video. I grew up in LA. In LA, once you're 40, you're done. And I'm over 50. Why would I want to be out there, putting myself out there? And everyone kept pushing. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to put one episode on YouTube, just see what happens. Now, keep in mind, Bernie, 2 years before, in 2022, I did a 30-day series on YouTube. I worked 14-hour days. It was blood, sweat, and tears when I wasn't feeling well. And I had a total of 38 subscribers and 100 views when it was done. And
Mm-hmm.
that was so depressing. And so YouTube was not really a draw for me. And, but I thought, whatever, I'll put it up. And I thought shower thoughts are so fun. I love shower thoughts, but nobody does them in the shower. And so I got a robe and I blinged it out because, Fabulous Over 50, it's all about glitter and everything. And I batched 100 and I put them up three to four a day for a month with that interview. And I just sat back. And it was just to be fun. It wasn't even, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going for success. It just was fun. And I had won my first Podcast of the Year award at the beginning of this year, which kind of lit a fire. But 3 weeks after I had put those things up, I was monetized on YouTube and it was going crazy. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh my gosh, maybe we're onto something. So we batched out a couple hundred more shower thoughts and kept putting them up. And like you said, we had a 500,000 views at 3 months. We had 1 million views at 6 months and then 2 million views at 8.5 months. So it's working. It is working. I have 2 partner managers now with YouTube. I get invited to go to YouTube parties. They send me presents. It is so much fun. And now I don't want to quit. Now I am on a roll with it. I love it.
Well, I think, first of all, I want to just make a comment about shower thoughts. They're very entertaining. And just for the listener, I want to repeat what you said. You're wearing a robe, so you are very clothed.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're using like a shower head as a pretend microphone, right?
Yes. Yes. It's very low tech. I hold my iPhone in one hand and the shower nozzle in the other hand. There's no mics, there's no anything. It's just me standing there, but very modestly dressed in the shower. That seems to be a question. No sexy grandmas. No, just
Right.
dressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. And they're always entertaining. They're always like,
Oh, thanks.
that's interesting. I have a theory. Tell me, I have not shared this with you before, so I think that one of the reasons that YouTube really likes you is, aside from the fact that you're producing quality video, that's certainly always going to be a prerequisite for them, right? But you are in a demographic that I think they're interested in expanding. I think you represent us, this demographic of over 50, and you represent it so fabulously, a little pun intended there. And I think that's part of the appeal to them. Great content and a demographic that appeals to them. What do you think?
Honestly, I maybe that is it. Yeah, I don't know. Everybody is calling me and having me tell them how I do everything so they can do the same thing. And I don't know. I can tell everyone what I know. I wrote a book about it. I did a video series about it because I can't explain it every single day. But I think, yes, I think they're realizing that we are a force. This Gen X boomer, thing is not going away. We are here and we are a huge demographic. And also, we have the money. And I think that's something that people forgot about for a little while, because they were focusing on, oh, kids have money now and kids can do things, but they forget that we have a spending power aside from sheer numbers. The county I'm in Florida, 50% is over the age of 50 and a third is over 65. We've got a lot of seniors here, but also everywhere. And I think it's time, honestly, that these big companies and our culture starts recognizing us as equally important.
So I think the last point you made is a really key point, and that's our culture in general. There is very much a youth centric culture out there. I'm very, very critical of it when I visit a website, any brand's website. I look at the photos. And as I'm sure you've noticed as well, Jen, in most cases, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, the photos are of people young, 20s, 30s, usually in many cases don't see anybody that might even appear to be 40 or over 40. And to your point, I think that society in general, and in this case, I think YouTube has taken notice that you represent the demographic in a very sophisticated way, as well as fun and authentic. And I think that's, you know, getting recognized by YouTube and giving you some wonderful success.
Yeah, and it's nice because if people want to go out and make themselves look younger by whatever means that they want to, I think people should be able to do whatever they want to do. But I also think there needs to be people out there like me, like you, where we're just being ourselves, right? We're letting people see. I mean, I'm making an assumption with you. I don't know, maybe you, I don't know. The Botox is a thing. But for me, it's not a thing. And I just want to let people know that it's okay to age naturally and age gracefully, and it's a beautiful thing too. And I really wish we could get that back in our culture. I really do. So many cultures honor people as they age. And I think with people like you and me out there, hopefully we can help remind people that we've got a lot of great things to say and we've got decades left. It's not
Absolutely.
over.
Oh, absolutely. And, as you know, Jen, I just recently transitioned from being employed full time to going all in on not just the podcast, more than the podcast, but speaking, training, delivering workshops around fulfillment centric leadership. So I'm all in on that. So I'm back into an entrepreneurial chapter, which I was in for 19 years before I had my most recent corporate job. And I'm doing this at the age of 67. And I remember when I was having some exit interviews at my now previous employer, one of them was, so Bernie, I kid you not, so Bernie, are you going to retire now? And, I didn't show it, but I was offended by that because the only reason the question was asked because was the individual that asked the question knew my age. It's in my record, HR has your record. They know your age. And that was how the conversation started. So are you going to retire now? And no, I'm not retired. I am absolutely pedal to the metal on this chapter, excited, full of energy. And I know the same goes for you, Jen. The only thing that I will say is I do not do 14-hour days. I have done them. I did them for many years, but I intentionally don't because one of the reasons that I'm able to do what I do with energy is a lot of good self-care, sleep, exercise, eat well. And did I mention sleep? So
Yeah, sleep.
14-hour days don't go well with sleep, right? So, But anyway, I've got the energy, I've got the enthusiasm, and I know you have it as well. And I think that we can both, with pride and humility, hold ourselves up as an example of people. And I know there's many others like us that are really high energy and committed to this chapter of our lives. And we're doing it with abundant energy and love and enthusiasm.
Absolutely. And I do not plan on working 14-hour days past December. I've given I told my family months ago, this is a just temporary thing. And come December 31st, I will be changing that. I've hired an assistant and that's editing some of my videos now. And yeah, that's going to slow down. But
Well, Jen, I
I'm
have good news
excited
for
about
you.
that.
Then that's in
Yeah.
the past because this is publishing in January.
Okay. Hold on. I can redo that. Sorry.
No, that's
Well,
okay. That's okay. It's all part of the conversation.
that's funny.
So, okay, so we are in a new year now. What's in store for Jen Hardy and all of your amazing content in 2025?
I am doing a lot of traveling this year, Bernie, and I am so excited about that. I'm traveling solo, which is not something that I normally do. I'm going to go to Podfest in January, and then I'm going to Vegas for a retreat in February, which will be well earned after last year's crazy days. And then in May, I'm going to go to the podcast show in London and then see my daughter
Mhm.
who's in Germany. So it's going to be a wild ride, but I'm very excited and looking forward to it. And everything is content, right? So all these trips are going to be incredible content for my channel.
So you will continue to publish podcast episodes. What about the shower thoughts?
Shower thoughts may end up happening in different showers. This may be a new thing, which would be kind of exciting. So, yeah, I did a class just recently learning how to go viral. And so I'm working on some new kinds of shower thoughts where I'm not just standing still in the shower. So stay tuned for those. They're going to be exciting.
Okay. What is the most interesting thing that you've heard, whether it's feedback or comment or whatever it may be, from somebody that's either watched your YouTube channel or listened to your podcast? What's the sort of the most interesting thing that you've heard?
The most interesting thing and the most rewarding one was somebody listened to my story because I did one about my story on the podcast about 2 years ago. And she said she was on the verge of suicide. And when she heard my story and saw what I had come from and that I had made it, she could make it through another day. And that was
Wow.
huge. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow. I bet that had a huge impact on you.
it did. It did because up until that point, I thought, I'm just this sick woman telling my sad story, you know, and I don't know, it made me realize, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something a little more to this. And I tried to keep everything upbeat, but it seems like when you have a podcast, sometimes seems like you're speaking into the void because you don't get a lot of feedback from a podcast like you do on
Right.
YouTube. You get feedback because there's a button to push for a comment right there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. So if I was to ask one of your adult children, tell me something about Jen, your mom, that I don't know, what do you think they might say?
wow, that I was a horribly strict parent,
Really?
super, super conservative and horribly strict, and it drove them all crazy. Yeah, so I've learned to calm down a little bit and be a little bit freer with everything. And yeah, be a little bit more reasonable with the last two children that we have here. I pushed them very hard. Now they are all very successful. So I'm just going to say,
It
and they
worked.
did all thank me when they went to college because I made them work at home and do all kinds of things. And they could all run a household by the time they were 18. And that was my goal because I couldn't at 18. I was on my own and floundering, and I never wanted my kids to have that. But I think I maybe took it too far.
So my two adult children as well, age 33 and 28, families of their own, successful. They said the same thing. They thanked me and my wife for, just raising them with the discipline that we raised them. So I can totally relate. Okay, I'm going to ask you this next question. Same question, except instead of your kids, your husband Dave. If I ask Dave, what do you know, Dave, about Jen that we don't know that you'd be willing to share?
Oh, I haven't. What? I don't. Did I sleep in really late? I am
Really?
not a
Okay.
morning person. And so even though I work late, but I don't get going. This morning I was up at 7. That is very abnormal. I won't even make an appointment until after 11 in the morning.
Really?
And he's a morning person, so that's not his favorite thing about me.
So then during the week then, what's your average wake up time?
Wake up 8 or 9, but get out of bed 10, 11 if I can get away with it.
No kidding.
So my
Wow.
body still does not feel great, and mornings are very hard. So
Okay.
it takes me about an hour to get out of bed. But then once I'm up and going, I don't think about that and I just keep going and it's positive. But that
Yeah.
first hour is a little
Yeah.
rough. Yeah.
Well, Jen, you are a wonderful inspiration. You are just a bright light in this world in so many ways, metaphorically and also visually as well. I love what you're doing with your content. I love your story. I'm sorry that you had to go through that and endure that. But on the other side of that, you are touching a lot of people, reaching a lot of people with a great message and a lot of great inspiration. And I want to thank you for sharing your story with me here today on this vulnerable conversation episode. Any closing thought you want to share?
Actually, there is. So for someone who's listening and you're going through something horrible, as unfortunately we do, just remember, one of my sons asked me, why is it that we just went through this period of about 5 years where it just seemed like everything was hitting us from every side? And he said, why is it always us? And I said, we'll never know. But out of this, we can do two things. We can either wallow in it, which is not the option, or we can keep moving forward and help other people when they go through this, because now we know what it's like and we know how to get through it, and we can reach down and pull someone else up. So if you're going through it, you may not know why ever, and that's okay. And that's hard to make peace with sometimes, but just be prepared to help the next person and you will get through it so much easier.
Great advice, Jen. And give a shout out to your show so people can follow you and connect with you.
Okay, the Jen Hardy Show on YouTube, but if you go to jenhardy.net, everything's there. Links for everything. Books, podcasts, TV, or not TV, not yet.
Not yet.
YouTube. We watch me on TV. It's weird when the kids turn on YouTube and I'm there. But so
Fantastic. Well,
jenhardy.net.
all that will be linked up in the show notes. Jen, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Bernie. The pleasure has been all mine. I appreciate it.